What's up? Welcome, YouTube. You're back here at Slim Jim Jammer's channel. It's your boy. It's my guy, Jimmy. Yeah. Today we've got another fantastic set of New York City stories for you. Something I get requested quite often. If you don't know me personally, before all of this coronavirus wildness, I used to be a New York City tour guide. I still am, I suppose. If tourism ever does decide to rear its head. At this point, I would have been a tour guide for about 14 years. I actually worked for 6 years on the double-decker buses in New York City, the Wild West of tourism, being in the trenches, as they say. I had some very, very wild times in those double-decker buses. People always ask me, and well, let's put it in a video, I guess. We used to have tours that would go out in the evenings. And the tours that would go out in the evenings were the night tour. We're in a tour one time, got a big crowd, like a nice summer night, going downtown. At some point, I don't know what happened, it sort of seemed like the road we were on was going to close. And I've had this happen before where we're on a tour, we're going, the road we're on closes while we're on it, so it's closed, but they closed it off at other points. You're already in the middle of the thing, so you just are going and you're on an empty street. The street is Fifth Avenue down the middle of Manhattan. Once we start to get down towards like Madison Square Park, I want to say, just all these people started to like flood out onto the streets. We didn't know what was going on, and it was mostly women, middle-aged. They began to undress. And all of a sudden, there was hundreds of topless women that were flanking the sides of the bus. We're surrounded, and I remember I didn't know what was going on, so I yelled down to someone, like, what's going on? And one of the women looks up to me, and she's like, gay marriage is legal! We had gotten caught in the impromptu gay marriage legalization parade for the state of New York. So the tour, that would normally be like a 2-hour tour, ended up being like a 3.5-hour tour because we had to wait for the entire parade to go. And I had probably like a half dozen kids on the bus. Young kids, 6, 7. I'm the narrator on this tour, and I'm not the driver, I'm just the narrator. And I never stopped doing narration. If anyone knows me, never stopped talking. So I didn't know what to say, trying to like call it. Well, if you came to New York and you were wondering if your child was going to grow up at all, now you know the answer. And for you kids out there, get an eyeful, because this will probably be more than you'll see for quite a bit of time until you get the password to mom's internet. This was back in the days when internet was crappier, that's for sure. I go downstairs at one point to see if the driver is okay. And the driver was this guy that was so skinny, skinnier than me. If I say anybody's skinny, like I'm a very, very thin guy. If I say someone's skinny, I'm like, this guy was tiny. He was always smoking. A human cigarette. Found out he had 12 kids once, which was hilarious. He must have been like $1.20. I say to him, I go, Tony, you didn't think he expected to see so many naked people? You coming to work today, huh? And he looks at me from the steering wheel. Everyone on the bus, all the tourists are upstairs. This is double-decker bus. He's downstairs. If no one was downstairs, he would, like many other drivers, would start smoking cigarettes. He's smoking a cigarette. He's driving a bus. And he's like, man, you think I want to see all these raggedy ass? Just doing my job. Put things in perspective. Another time on the bus, another wild story. We would work, rain or shine, snow. It didn't really matter the weather. Those buses are going out. Gotta make that bread. I had just started touring. I was a young guy, and people definitely had a lot less respect for me at that point. It was more difficult to get 50 to 75 people to follow your directions. You know, we got families and grandparents and all ages and walks of life. Obviously I have a microphone, so it makes you sound more official. I was wearing a uniform, you look more official. I've got this deep voice, but at the time I had even bigger hair than I had now. I wasn't losing it up at the temples, the Temple of Doom, as they call it. I similarly had braces. When it would rain on the bus, they would hand out these ponchos, plastic white trash bags that had a head hole cut in them. If it really started to rain bad, people would freak out though, and people would dash off the top of the bus. If you stood up on the top of the double-decker bus, these streetlights weigh around like 75 pounds, and you would get, decapitated essentially. I remember when I first got that job, my boss says to me, "You see that bus?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And there was a full bus of tourists. "You see all those people on the top of the bus, those 50 people up there, yeah?" I said, "Uh-huh." She goes, "You see how they all have 50 heads? After you come back from that tour, they all better still have 50 heads, okay?" That was all they cared about. I remember I said, "What about, like, the information that I'm giving them?" "Yeah, make sure they don't die, please." You were a glorified safety monitor on those things. So I'm on the bus doing this tour. We're actually almost at the very end of the thing. We're coming back from Central Park. We're going towards Times Square, and the bus is full, and you can just feel it. I don't know if you've ever lived on the East Coast or anybody from around New York. When it's so humid, you can feel the thunderstorm about to break. You can feel the air quality, the pressure was different. Continually saying to these people, "Hey guys, if it gets crazy, do not run off the top of the bus. You can slip and fall, you can injure yourselves or other passengers. Make sure that you go down in an orderly fashion." And they're all like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, whatever you say." Like clockwork, like a minute later, the sky opens. It is cascading water. I mean, we're getting hit with a deluge. It's unbelievable. Waves, tidal waves. It was so much rain, you couldn't even look forward. You had to look backwards. It was pelting you in the eyes. Crazy New York City rainstorms, unlike anything you might ever see. So the people, like I thought, they stand up every person on the bus immediately, and they're dashing to go off the top of the bus to get some cover. None of them had these ponchos on, and they're holding these ponchos in their hand, like tight-fisted, like, running off the top. I'm screaming at them to try to sit down. None of them will listen to me, so I have to yell down the stairs to the driver, the only thing I know to do that's safe, and I scream to him, "Middle lane!" And the middle lane is the only lane that doesn't have any streetlights over it, so I tell them to go right down the middle so we don't get killed. The people go to dash downstairs. I'm like making sure, I'm trying to get people to get a hand on the handrail. At this point I can't control them to stop them from getting down, so all I can do is try to get them down safely. I look at the back of the bus, and there's a family of 3 guys in the very back of the bus. They're like frozen, and they are trying to get from back there, I can tell, but they are just getting pelted with rain and wind, and they happen to have put these ponchos on, and these ponchos are turning into like a parachute, and they're like getting blown back. So I go to the back of the bus to try to help these guys. Again, mind you, I'm like 19 years old at this time. When I get back there, it's 3 Sikh guys, so they've all got turbans on, and the ponchos, when I'm trying to help them to grab their hands to like walk them forward. As I go to get near him, the poncho flips up and rips up over his head. When the poncho goes over his face, he can't breathe, and I have to run down and I have to rip the poncho off of him so he can breathe. And as it rips up over his head, it knocks his turban off, and as it knocks his turban off, his head wrap comes undone, and his hair ribbons out. His religion that, his hair hadn't been cut for many years, possibly since he was young. So this hair was 10 foot long, no joke. It goes, ribbons out, and it wraps up around the railing of the bus. So I allowed his family to try to unwrap his hair from the back. He gets his hair undone, and as we get his hair undone, we finally get him downstairs, safe and sound. So those were a few stories from my early days working on the double-decker bus in New York City, baby. That's right. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at Slim Jim Jammer, just like here on YouTube. Again, we'll be giving you guys new content fast as humanly possible. We're putting out a new episode weekly, my guy. We doing it up, so come on back. We'll be here. I'll be here. Your guy, my guy. You know what it's all about, baby. Much love.